sooner or later. So it is important to have an emergency backpack in which you can carry necessary objects to survive in case of an earthquake. Then the teacher gives the following instructions in groups. Make the list of 10 most important objects to carry in emergency backpack, then present your list and explain each. Sorry, I have some interference, Jose. It is okay. Maybe someone has we have to mute. Sorry. Please. Okay, thank you, Evelyn. Then the teacher gives the following instructions. In groups, make a list of 10 most important objects to carry in your emergency backpack. Then present your list and explain why the objects you have chosen are important. Next. Next, the students are given the following prompts. We consider that having it is important because we choose the for, and we have since in order to use them during the activity. After that, each group presents their list and supports their choices using the prompts given. Finally, the teacher asks the students to analyze the kind of language they use during the activity. So this is one question, a typical question from the exam. And we are going to see which of these questions could be the best answer. Please, you can participate using which of the following methods is Omar developing in his teaching sequence? A, problem-based learning, B, content-based learning, C, task-based learning. What do you think could be the best answer for this case that we have in the exam? If you want to participate and give your suggestions, please do it right now on the chat.
The letter A here.
Okay, problem-based learning could be another one.
Ya he mencionado, que ustedes también lo saben.
Okay, please off your microphones. So now we are going to analyze which could be and why. Okay. Teacher says that maybe. Excuse me.
It's possible task-based learning.
Okay, could be. Cynthia, any other one participation? Any other? So you are correct. This is a task-based learning. So we are going to see why this activity is a task-based learning, and we are going to remember some ideas of what task-based learning method is about. Task-based learning or task-based language learning is a task in an activity that the learners are engaged into process of learning a language. A task is a range of learning activities from the simple and brief exercise to more complex and lengthy activities, such as group problem solving or simulation and decisions making. So we have to remember that a task is a range of activity from the simple to the complex. Yeah? If you see here, the teacher showed the students an emergency backpack. So he is modeling and trying to keep the students' attention. And then he is going to give the steps for the work to his students during the class. What is the text-based method? The task-based teaching approach is one of the many modern ESL teaching methods and focuses on setting a goal for students. This could be a report, a video, or a presentation, and then following 3 main steps to achieve that goal. These tasks can be daily routines like buying a cup of coffee, going to the doctor, or talking to someone on the phone. So you see, this is not a complex. Here in the exam, they put us a kind of complex activity, but it could be simple also as well. The pre-task. During this stage, which can take up a whole lesson if needed, the teacher introduces the task to the students and get them motivated to solve it. Once everyone is engaged, the teacher should explain what is expected for the task. Verbal explanations can be supported by an example from the teacher or by showing a previous student's work. The teacher can then give further instructions if needed and offer advice on how to approach the task. So if you see in the example, the teacher first showed the students the emergency backpack, and then he explained to the students why it is important to have an emergency backpack, and then give the task to the students to prepare what we need to put in an emergency backpack. The task. This is the main stage of the task, where students start working on the task, usually in groups or pairs. It is important to have in mind that a task-based learning is from more than 2 people. It's not for individual. It could be, but it's better when you work with group or with pairing your students to do the tasks. This stage is done in the target language so that the students feel they need to use the language they want to learn in order to solve the task. The teacher says, please, we need to put some items in the emergency backpack, okay? The teacher doesn't usually join in the work process. Instead, he or she will monitor the students and offer hints if the students really need support. This activity is work for the students mainly. So we are going to analyze 2 more cases, okay? Which could be the right answer? Again, I beg you, please write your participations on the chat in the way we can interact. Marisa's students are going to listen to audio of a fable. She wants to assess her students' comprehension of the fable, given the teacher's goal, which of the following activities it's not appropriate. Teachers, I want to give you awareness. It is important to read very well what is the question to be answered, because sometimes we use go fast and we can give the mistake or the wrong answer because we can read well. So it is important to, in this case, the word not is what we are going to search for. En este caso vamos a ubicar de las 3 respuestas cuál es la menos apropiada. ¿Qué significa? Que las 3 pueden ser buenas, sin embargo hay una menos favorable, so is the least. A, the teacher plays the audio of the fable and then tells the students to listen it. Then she writes some question about it on the board and plays the audio again. This time, the students answer the questions. B, the teacher plays the audio of the fable a couple of times and the students listen to it carefully. Then she gives the students a word search puzzle. She tells them to find the words they remember from the audio. And C, the teacher plays the audio of the fable and tells the students to listen it. Then she gives the students a fill in the blank worksheet with excerpts from the fable. She tells them to fill in the missing information while she plays the audio game. Okay, teachers, give me the answers. Teacher Jose, can you see the
Yeah,
chat box?
there are many of us were answering B. So Victoria said B, Milton said B as well, Agrippina B as well. So we got B.
Oh, that's awesome. Very good job, because that answer is letter B. The best answer. That means that option is the least. Es la menos indicada para desarrollar una actividad en la cual se involucre al estudiante lo que deba hacer con relación al audio. Okay, this is important to have in mind. Sometimes the Minedu asks for the less appropriate activities. Let's go with the next question. Okay, sorry, I got this one. The review or post-task. Once the students have completed the task and have something to present, the review stage, also known as the post-task start. It is a good idea to let the students evaluate each other's work and only offer a teacher review of frequently made errors during the task. Peer correction could be carried out in the form of comments, feedback, discussions, or a checklist with additional room for free commentary. The review stage offers students the opportunity to reflect on their work and analyze it in order to improve their skills for the future. So this is important. Even though this part is not the most important, sometimes could help the students review the work and see, for example, that now we are working with rubrics. This is important that the students check their progress and see what they could improve in the next activity. Okay, I'm sorry. I use the pencil now. I don't know how to quit that. Let me see. Okay, I think so. Thanks. I used to work more with Google Meet. Examples of a task include. This is important to have in mind. What are examples of a task? Because most of the questions that we have in the exam are related to this: creating a presentation, making a video or short movie, writing a piece of text, such a newsletter article, acting out a skit, creating an original game that includes writing down the game's rule, playing the game and evaluating the game, working out the solution to a practical problem, such as planning up an upcoming trip or gathering missing information, like working out who started a rumor at school, participating in a group debate or discussion, like arguing. One more question. Which could be the best answer? So teachers go on and participate. The teacher wants her students to develop their oral skills through the topic life experiences. She has told of 3 strategies to achieve her purpose. Which of the following strategies she has told is more meaningful for the students? A, the teacher has the students answer a questionnaire about the life experiences. She asks them to exchange it with a classmate and read the classmate's answer for some minutes. Then the teacher calls on volunteers to report some of their classmates' answers aloud. The teacher, B, tells the students to use question, have you ever? To interview their classmates. She tells the students to ask follow-up questions to get details about their peers' experiences. Finally, the teacher calls on volunteers to report their findings to the class. C, the teacher puts the students in groups and gives them biographic information about the famous singers. She tells the students to read the information and decide which singer has had the most interesting experiences. Finally, the students report the singer's experiences to the class. Remember that it is important which is more meaningful. Okay, teachers, which could be the best one?
Letter B.
Yeah. Okay, another participation.
Then we have C, B, A, but most of them goes for B.
You're right. Yeah, it's quite a coincidence. I didn't choose the letter B, but most of the examples are B in this case. The teacher tells the students to use question, have you ever, to interview their classmates. This is more meaningful for her students, no? When they interact with their own experiences. Okay, continue. This is another question, another case about Mario's students. They have been talking about social networking since the students got interested in that topic. He wants to use that context to have them improve their oral skills through a communicative activity. Given Mario's goal, which activity is the least appropriate to carry out? A, the teacher tells the students to make a list of either the pros or cons of social networking and add some arguments such as examples or opinions to support their ideas. Then he asks two students with different points of view to get together. Finally, he asks them to have a short discussion on the topic. B, the teachers write the social media networking title on the board. Then he asks as many students as possible to go on to the board and write words related to that title. Finally, the teacher pairs up students and tells them to take turns to speak about social networking for 1 minute. C, the teacher writes the following question on the board. What social networking sites do you use? What information do you have on those sites, and what are some good bad points about social networking? Then he puts the students in groups and tells them to discuss their answers. Finally, the students share their findings with the class. What do you think is the best answer, dear teacher?
Once again, so B is B, so
Yeah.
we'll see.
Okay, why couldn't be C? We have the list. We have the focus on the blackly word list, la menos apropiada. Es importante tener en cuenta eso, porque qué es lo que nos piden, qué es lo que pregunta, ¿no? Con relación a lo que debemos elegir. Y en el caso del C, pues el hecho de compartir about social networking sites they use, maybe they are not going to feel confident. Okay? Well,
No.
This is about, text-based learning. I have some links that maybe you can review and see later. I am going to share with you. Okay, Jose, I am going to stop sharing and you can go on.
Now, are you going to work with blended or just start with?
Okay, give me a moment. Okay. Okay. I'm going to share models of blended learning. I am going to present my screen again. And we are going to start this part with a short video.
Excuse me, but what is the answer?
It was B.
Ah.
B.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay.
Fundamentals of Blended Learning. My name is Michael Thompson, and I'm the Director of School Partnerships at Education Elements. We work with schools across the country to help them think about blended learning and to design instructional models which use technology effectively. Our primary product is the HLMS, which I will discuss in more detail in some of our other videos. In this video, I want to share the fundamentals of blended learning. I'll explain what is meant when someone uses the term blended learning, describe some of the blended learning models, and discuss the results we are getting. What is blended learning? If you think about the traditional classroom environment on one end of the spectrum, and on the other end of the spectrum is a student learning on a computer at home, blended learning is somewhere in the middle. Now, let's ask ourselves, how do we differentiate and individualize instruction in the classroom? Frankly, students are not engaged in lecture-style instruction. We know that small group instruction, personal learning plans, guided practice, and inquiry-based teaching all lead toward a better and deeper understanding of concepts. Unfortunately, differentiation and feedback doesn't scale without technology. So blended learning is about leveraging digital content to provide students with skills and practice. Meanwhile, the teacher focuses on depth and application of concepts to teach higher order thinking skills. So what if we can create an environment where, one, students can get individualized self-paced instruction, two, teachers can provide differentiated small group instruction based upon weekly or daily data, and three, schools can operate at a much lower cost per pupil, which will allow them to reallocate resources. This environment is blended learning. What are some of the blended learning models? Let's go back to the spectrum of learning environments. As we see it now, there are four models emerging: lab rotation, class rotation, flex, and pod. I'm going to go over each of these now. Lab rotation is where students move in and out of a classroom to a computer lab. Many people seeing this model will think it looks very familiar to a traditional computer lab. However, if you look under the hood, the difference is that in a lab rotation, the data from the content in the learning lab informs the instruction in the classroom. In a class rotation model, students are broken out into smaller groups. So a class of 30 may be broken out into 4 small groups. Every 20 minutes, the groups may rotate between stations. Two stations are with the computer, and the 4th station may be guided practice. In this environment, a teacher has the ability to monitor the whole class, manage behavior, and maintain the class culture. In the flex model, the learning lab might look like...
Okay, I want to stop here a bit, trying to emphasize that these blended learning models are not viable in most of our schools, because as you see here, for example, in the first part, lab rotation, we need a lab English, no? So this blended learning, when they have labs, could be more for HEX, no? That HEX are prepared with 5 hours and they used to go to the lab, no? But in the class rotation, we can manage groups and we can give each group a task, and every certain time. For that reason is that it is important in our schools, we have the 2 hours English that we have in the schedule, maybe just not one part, 40 minutes. It could be the best if, as a teachers, we try to hacer respetar that our classes could be more than 80 minutes, okay? So let's continue.
like a large call center with banks of computers. Around the edges of the lab might be smaller breakout rooms for classes. In this model, the students work mostly on the computers, and a teacher might pull out a group of students for seminar, intervention, or direct instruction. One of the newer models is the pod concept. Essentially, it's a school within a school, and each pod might have multiple grade levels. In this model, the role of the teacher may be redefined and broken out into discrete roles: an advisor, a behavior specialist, or an instructor to support each pod. All of these models are rethinking the traditional school, giving students more control over their learning and providing students with targeted instruction. What are some of the results? From a student perspective, students are more engaged using online content versus paper and pencil practice worksheets. They like getting real-time feedback and knowing where they stand at any time. Students can control how fast or slow they need to go through a lesson. In these schools, we see students accelerating past the skills for their grade level, and this is what we call unleashing their learning velocity. Also, even though the class sizes may be larger, students feel that their classes are actually pretty small because the experience they have with the teacher is in a small group. Now, from a teacher perspective, the teachers we've spoken to find it easier to plan for small group instruction versus trying to teach to the middle and differentiating top and bottom. Teachers find teaching in small groups more rewarding because the students are more engaged. And finally, teachers are surprised by how much easier classroom management is with students engaged on the computers versus when students are doing things on pencil and paper. Thank you for watching our video on blended learning. We are
Okay, so here we have some ideas. What does blended learning mean? What does involve to have in the schools as a lab, computers? And I think teachers, I really believe that after this pandemic, we are going to come back to our schools empowered, using so much tech tools than we used to use in our classes, okay? So that's the good thing in this, that we are going to try to develop more the autonomy in our students, not giving just a worksheet or a paper to complete. Now they are going to try to be more engaged in their learning because they have these possibilities now, and now they are now very familiarized with the technology, our students, and of course, we as teachers too. I'm sorry. Okay, I put this meme, Profs in 2019. I think that is something that happened to you, or maybe me too, no? ¿Quién me ayuda a prender el proyector? I remember in my school, we have un palo, una regla, o el más alto del salón, prendía. But now, as teachers in 2021, we are preparing in doing classroom activities, PDFs, questions, videos. This pandemic really showed up that we are able than we believed. Somos muy, como profesores, somos muy creativos y hemos creado más cosas de las que creíamos. As teachers, we are going to try to work every day to use any new tool. And of course, every one of you are capable of doing too. Here in the exam, I didn't find some questions about blended learning, but I want to share with you some of the activities I used to do. I don't know, I am not sure completely if it could fit as a blended learning, because you know the blended learning join the face-to-face classes with the tech. Some of the classes we try to lead in our schools, and the students have homework to complete some ideas or do some things. in this last 8 experience, for example, we have this activity. What I used to do with my students is some of the students that are not able to work through Meet, I send the images or the pictures, and also I send the link of YouTube of the audio, so they can share, ¿no? Ellos pueden escuchar y compartir sus respuestas. En el caso de los estudiantes que no tienen acceso a data, lo que yo hago es grabar los videos, y he visto de todos los teachers, they have so many ideas and they are working so hard doing the best job for their students. No, they create some videos. So I think maybe some cases are going to be in our exam about this Aprendo en Casa experiences and how we can lead the students' learning. Another thing that I used to do, for example, do you remember on April, we were working about personal information, is create activities in Kahoot. Some of the students that have data, they can get into the Kahoot link and work and answer, but for those students that don't have, I used to put some pictures, some images, and they answer me by my private WhatsApp what they think their answers, no? So I see other teachers used to put in their status, en el estado de WhatsApp, el teacher pone siempre sus preguntas y los estudiantes, es su manera de interactuar. So, como les digo, no hay mucha casuística con relación a esto, pero creo que Aprendo en Casa nos está permitiendo analizar la mejor manera de usar la tecnología y el aprendizaje a distancia de los estudiantes. And here I have some links that, again, I am going to share with you about this blended learning. Okay, Jose? Ahí. Jose, are you there? Now he's going to continue with the other part in the agenda.
Thank you so much, Marta. So just to reinforce a little bit on it, blended learning goes beyond the use of technology in the classroom. Blended learning involves a student on the research using technology. Okay, so let's see here. I want you to confirm if you can see my screen, and I'll start sharing my screen. And then we're going to start with cooperative learning. Please let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes.
Yes, can be. Thank you so much. Okay, so then we come across with famous cooperative and collaborative learning. Just both approaches that seems to be the same, but they are not actually the same. They are kind of different ones. So right now I'm going to focus on the use of cooperative learning. Okay, so let's see, let's give it a start. And then what do we know about cooperative learning? As its name says, cooperative learning is just to work with somebody, okay? Just to work with somebody, that is cooperative learning. Yeah, and then we have this activity, okay? I will share with you the activity. It says, I want my students to write a short text about equity gender. Okay, so that is the activity I want to work with my students. Okay, so the question comes now, how can I make it? Yes, how can I make it? Now the idea is to use cooperative learning in class. Okay, so we're going to work on this. So for activity 1, okay, so show your students a picture, tell them answer these questions. Okay, so and then we have these questions. What do you see? What makes you say that? What does it make you wonder? Have you ever heard about this technique? Have you heard about this technique? Not at all. So you can interrupt.
Yes.
Maybe somebody there in the chat, Marta.
Agripina says, yes, also we apply it in class.
Very good. How do you call it? Does anybody know? No? Okay, so.
Brainstorming.
Sorry?
Gray says brainstorming.
It's a brainstorming activity. Okay, so it comes with an individual work. Okay, so what do you see? What makes you say that? And what does it make you wonder? It goes with an individual work. Now make then share the ideas with a partner per work. Okay, so then we have this to brainstorm, as your friend, as our colleague said, no? So to brainstorm our ideas, okay, brainstorm our ideas. And then it just goes beyond the description. Okay, so first we have to describe the picture, then you have to say what makes you say that, what part in the picture, what elements in the picture makes you say that, and then what it makes you wonder. Okay, so there you go on reflection, go beyond the description and reflect on it. Okay, and then the second activity, so now make them share the ideas with the partner, pair work. Okay, so pair work. So we have from individual work to pair work, okay? Make them share the ideas with the partner. So these answers are gonna be shared with the partner, okay? And then we go with the next one. Now tell them to share ideas with the whole classroom, group work. Now, so if you realize it, it goes from the individual work, pair work, and group work. Does anybody know that that is a complete activity? Does anybody know how do you call this activity? It's a warm-up. It's a warm-up. Okay, we're starting our class today with this. Anybody? No?
Yeah, it's just nice.
Okay, so then we have this activity called think, pair, and share. Think individual work, pair with a partner, and share with the class. Okay, so then we got this process, and this activity, this approach, this strategy we use in the class is what we call think, pair, and share. It's part of cooperative learning. Okay, so we have this first idea. Now, then we go to the next one, another idea for cooperative learning. So we have activity 2. Divide your students in groups of 4, then give each group a different text about equity gender model. Okay, so then we have here, and then we got it by the groups in 4. We are gonna give a different text and they are gonna discuss on it. Okay, now this is really important to get from cooperative learning. Then you have to assign a role to each student in the group. Okay, so then we have a leader. So you can assign the people as you want. Okay, so leader, reader, reporter time. I just organize a way. But of course, if you have other ideas of organizing the group, you're free to do it. Okay, so it is not like a rigid thing. Tell them to discuss about the information given. So at the very beginning of the activity, you gave your students this paper. Okay, so different text. Now, then you're gonna tell them to discuss on it. But before doing that, then you have to assign a role to each member of the group. So each member in the group will have an important thing to do in the activity. Okay, then we have mingle the groups. Be sure every member in the group must be part of another group. They must share what they discuss in the formal groups and take notes. So then we have to do what we're going to do. Now, as we were groups in groups of 4, you can say like all 1s together, all 2s together, all 3s together, all 4s together. Or then if you have another way to mingle, then it's you. But then you have to mix them up as well. Okay, and they must share what they discuss in their formal groups and take notes. Okay, so, and then how do you call this activity? Have you ever heard? Jigsaw. And jigsaw is another strategy for cooperative learning. Okay, so jigsaw is another strategy for cooperative learning. So if in the exam, then you see think, pair, and share, automatically say cooperative learning. If in the exam you see jigsaw, automatically say cooperative learning. If in the exam, the case says the teacher divided groups, they divide the group and assign a role to each member in the group, cooperative learning. And that is the idea of cooperative learning. So then we have here activity 3. Okay, tell your students to drop the text using the information they got from the different groups. Okay, so they are going to drop everybody working together. Remember that you have assigned the group a role in each member, to each member of the group. So that you have there, tell your students to share the drafts with the partner for feedback. Okay, so then you give feedback, analyze your friend's feedback and improve your paper, and then hand in your text final version. Okay, and that is the idea as well. So cooperative learning goes as well with evaluation. If you see that, if in the case study, you see that the student is checking that the papers, is giving feedback, okay, so co-evaluation, they are giving feedback to each other, then you automatically say, oh, that is cooperative learning. Okay, so, and then we have here, what do you know about cooperative learning? So it's gonna wrap up this. Okay, and there you go. These are very important things to consider for cooperative learning. This bulletin. Okay, group of students by performance level, so randomly, it's up to you. So the strategy you use, the typical ones that you're gonna see in the exam, there's think, compare, share, the jigsaw. Okay, so those are the typical ones that will appear in the exam. So assign responsibilities to each member in the group. I think this is the difference between cooperative learning and collaborative learning. This is the difference, okay? Meanwhile, in cooperative learning, the teacher assigns responsibilities. In collaborative learning, there is no this process. Yeah, so the teacher doesn't assign a role, okay? So everybody got the same activities to do. Later on, we're gonna work on collaborative learning and you're gonna understand it. Okay, so, but I think this is the main difference between cooperative and collaborative learning. Now, activities vary from individual to groups and round. If you see the strategy of learning here, so then we got from, remember, first activity, yes, individual work, pair work, group work, keep on group work, group work, group work, group work, and then we have here individual work, pair work, individual work. Okay, so that is the idea of cooperative learning. It goes from individual to group work, from group work to individual. That is another difference between collaborative learning and cooperative learning. Collaborative learning, no, collaborative learning goes from group and ends in the group. Okay, it is not possible to work individually or having an activity to work individually in collaborative learning. No, it's impossible. So then we have, these are the two differences. I think there we go. Group size shouldn't, it's missing the, be more than 4 students. So there is a facilitate information, monitor students on attacks, evaluate the students work individually, and that's group. I think these 3 are the ones difference. Collaborative learning, the teacher is not to monitor students. The teacher will not evaluate the students. The teacher will not guide the students. Only if one of the groups in collaborative learning asks for help, the teacher goes and helps. If no group wants to get some help from the teacher, okay, it's no problem. That is collaborative learning. Now, in cooperative learning, you have to facilitate the information. You gave the student the information. Okay, you monitor your students are on task. So you walk around and then you see if your students are working or not. And then you evaluate individually and group work. These are the 3 keys of, well, so the 5 keys of cooperative learning. Okay, so I hope you get an idea. Any questions, please feel free to ask. Maybe Martita, if you see there are some questions, somebody to want to reflect.
No yet. Teachers are kind of shy today. Please, teachers, ask.
Okay, so let's see. Let's gonna check a case study. Says, Carmen has planned the following teaching sequence to develop her third grade writing skills. Okay, now let's see. Want you to read it? Yes, I want you to read it and tell me which answer is it. If you see, it is
Teacher Jose,
Yes.
in the chat, Agripina and Monica want to, do you please repeat with what is the difference between cooperative and collaborative learning?
okay. I'm going to wrap up it. I'm gonna wrap up it again. Let's check the answer. Which is the correct answer?
Susana says letter A.
Okay.
The same opinion is Grace. Maribel also says letter A.
Yeah, that is great. And the correct answer is letter A. Okay, so if you see the approach taken here, okay, the approach used here is problem-based. Okay, so it is problem-based approach. Okay, the problem-based learning, it is working with cooperative learning. And of course, the aim is to develop writing skills, yes, but they are developing, okay, speaking skills as well. Okay, so what they are not, what she's not taking in consideration is checking students' accuracy. Accuracy, remember, it goes to grammar and vocabulary, the correct use of grammar and vocabulary. So it is not an objective in Carmen's lesson. Okay. So just to go back.
Yeah. Yeah, señorita.
Just to go back here and get it.
Gracias.
Okay, so remember, cooperative and collaborative learning sound similar, but they are not the same. Okay, they are not the same. So when we talk about cooperative learning, we assign roles. Okay, the teacher assigns roles in each group. Okay, in each group assigns role to each member in the group. Okay, that is cooperative learning. Now, in cooperative learning, activities.
¿O tú vas a llevar?
Can you please, Martita, mute the people who are open the mic?
Yes,
Okay.
I am muted. Mhm.
Okay, thank you. Now, in cooperative learning, activities vary from individual to group work and vice versa, from group work to individual work. Okay, so that is cooperative learning. Now, cooperative learning, the teacher's role, okay, the teachers will facilitate information to the students. Okay, so it is not necessary for the students to go to the library or to go to the internet, as you were talking about blended learning. It's not necessary because the teacher will give everything to the students. Now, in cooperative learning, the teacher will walk around, and will give feedback, we will check. We're gonna check if the student is working or not. Okay, so that is the idea of cooperative learning. On the other hand, collaborative learning does not go that way. Okay, In collaborative learning, there is no role in a group. That there is no role. Everybody has to do something together. Okay, so it's like to say, for example, so one person makes the first paragraph, the second person makes the second paragraph, the third person makes the third paragraph, and the fourth makes the conclusion. Okay, and then we have this introduction. What is the conclusion? And everybody puts something in the group. Okay, so but there is no role for the students. Okay, so everybody works together. That is collaborative learning. Now, in collaborative learning, there is no individual work. There is no individual work. There is no individual activity. Okay, all activities are group activities. You start assigning the group activity, assigning the groups, then you give the activity, and to the end, the group presents the activity. Okay, so that is collaborative learning as well. Now, in collaborative learning, the teacher does not give, the teacher does not facilitate information. In collaborative learning, the student goes to the library. The student goes to the internet, search the web, and then find information. So the student himself or itself will find the information. It's not the teacher who's going to give it. Now, the teacher only intervenes if the group asks for help. If the group doesn't ask for help, so teacher intervention is not necessary. There is a difference between collaborative and comparative learning. Okay, so that is the difference between them. Okay.
Thank you. Teacher Jose, Richard says, teacher, please, can you mention some disadvantages of collaborative and cooperative learning?
Okay, so in my experience, I will say now that collaborative learning, I will say that in collaborative learning, not everybody works the same level. And the person who's going to present the activity, the person who's going to make the presentation, and the person who works a bit harder is the one who knows better English. Rather than cooperative learning, in cooperative learning, then you assign a role, yes, according to the abilities each member in the group has, or maybe according to what you know them, okay, what do you know about them? That would be, I think that is the difference maybe in the pros and cons that we can find in both approaches. I will say them, having from experience, no? Okay.
That's all, no more question for now.
Yeah, thank you. Now then we have presentation, practice, and production. The 3 Ps, the famous 3 Ps that is nowadays moving on our heads. Okay, so the 3 Ps, just remember, presentation, practice, and production. Now, presentation, practice, and production got the stages. Which are they? Presentation, practice, and production. So those are the 3 stages. So we have a stage of presentation, we have a stage of practice, and then we have a stage of production. Okay, so what are we going to learn about it? Okay, so the famous PPP, or called the 3 Ps. Can you see my screen?
No, I can't.
No, you can't.
It is in the last presentation.
Sorry?
It's on the last presentation. Maybe you can stop.
Okay, I'm going to stop. I'm going to start sharing again. Yes.
Teacher Doris, please turn off your microphone.
Now, can you see?
Yes.
Yes, teacher.
Oh, thank you. Okay, presentation, practice, production. There is that nowadays tendency. If you see the well, so it's Aprendo en Clase lesson plans Everything is presentation, practice, production. Everything is presentation, practice, and production. Because there is a nowadays tendency to use it. The methodology, this is the, the nowadays, okay? This is the nowadays. So when you're dealing in the exam, you're gonna deal with this one. So getting this. Now, what is the activity? I want my students to describe what they did last weekend. How can I make it in presentation, practice, production, learning approach? Okay, so activity 1, what do I do? Okay, show your students different free time activities in images, okay? Okay, so then we have this. Yeah, so show your students different free time activities, image, and now make your students guess the context. What are we doing here? We're presenting. So presentation, practice, production, in the first stage that we call it presentation, we want to present, to introduce the context. So the way we made it, okay, that is a different thing. That's the way you use it. That is the strategy I want to use, but that is the idea, to present the context. So in this activity, you are going to, well, so we're going to make our students guess the context. Okay, so then we have here riding bikes, and then we have, okay, so what do you think is the topic about? Okay, what do you think we're going to talk about today? And they say, okay, so activities we do outside. No, not only outside, because we do it at home. Okay, when we spend time with friends. Okay, so then you start discussing. So your students are going to be aware what the topic is going to be about. Now, the presentation stage, grammar, vocabulary. Okay, so we're predicting now the context, we're introducing the context. Okay, and there we go. Last weekend, I played soccer with my friend. Now, during this presentation stage, okay, so we're gonna focus on content, grammar and vocabulary. Okay, grammar and vocabulary, just to be there. Okay, so last weekend, I played soccer with my friends. Now, there we have here, provide the first example. So then we provide it, okay? So we got these ideas, now we're gonna know what the context is about, and now we're gonna introduce the form, okay? In the presentation stage. So last weekend, I played soccer with my friends. Now there we go here, last weekend, I played soccer with my friends. I didn't stay at home. Did you play soccer with your friends? Yes, I did. No, I didn't. So presentation stage. Positive, negative, interrogative structure. Remember, the presentation stage will introduce the grammar. The strategy you use, that is going to be different. That is another thing. Okay, so you can use a different strategy to do this presentation stage. But in PPP presentation stage, you are going to introduce the form. Yes, there we go. When we said the grammar and the vocabulary you are going to use, if of course, if it's a writing activity. Okay, so then we have here, provide more examples. Now that we got positive, negative, interrogative structures. Presentation stage, okay, so check students got the context. What did you do last weekend? Okay, so then we go here from the very beginning. Presentation, the presentation stage, guess the context, introduce grammar and vocabulary and all the format, the structure you want to teach, you want your students to produce the structure, okay? And then after you do that, check if your students have understood it or not, okay? So presentation stage, check students got the context. So to check the context, it's not to fill in the gap, but to make them talk. Okay, so what did you do last weekend? Yeah, your students are gonna say, like, last weekend I played soccer with my friends. So last weekend I went dancing on a party. Okay, so then you're gonna give that idea. Okay, check understanding. That is presentation. Now there we go, activity 2. Now the practice stage. Now there we go, okay, to students, to opportunity to master grammar and vocabulary. This is the time for the hand, for the hands out, okay, for the hands out. Then you give the paper sheet to your friend, to your students, and then your students have to complete the gap. They have to do the activity, matching, drawing, well, so the activity depends on you as well. No, so, but this is the time for practice, okay? This is the time for practice. Yes, in this practice activities is a controlled practice. Constant monitoring and feedback. You have to approach to your students and then tell them, oh, you're doing correctly. No, this is not correct. You have to do this way. Okay, so that is the idea of the practice stage. It's to give the exercises, okay, clear exercises. Okay, so the students can practice the mastery of the grammar and vocabulary. Here you introduce in presentation, you introduce the grammar and the vocabulary through context. And here you're going to practice that grammar and that vocabulary. Okay, now the practice stage, control practice, constant monitoring and feedback. Okay, so remember, expect mistakes. This is really important. Okay, this is really important. Your students are going to make mistakes, so that's why you are controlling the practice. Okay, that's why you are monitoring the work. Okay, so and then you cannot say, oh no, this is not correct. You have to do it correctly. Come on, then you have to do it well, you do it again. No, that is not the idea. You have to expect. Okay, you have to expect mistakes here. Practice stage, okay, so focuses on accuracy. Yes, grammar should be perfect. Okay, grammar should be perfect. Okay, so remember that is practice stage. Okay, so the students now, it's to give the students the hands out. It's for you to walk around and check your students' work. And then you have to focus on accuracy. You cannot allow your students to say, she are, they have to say, she is, okay? So then you have to focus on it, okay? And that is the practice stage. Now, the production stage. Now, production stage focuses on fluency. Now, there we have here again. You introduce a structure, grammar and vocabulary. They practice the grammar and vocabulary. And they master it, accuracy. Yes. Now, in activity 3, no. Accuracy is already developed. Now, then you have to master fluency, then you have to focus on fluency. Reading or speaking, but then you have to focus on fluency. Let your students use the language on their own. It is not controlled practice anymore, not control. No, that you're not going to interrupt your students and say, okay, no, you're not doing correctly. No, or you are not going to give feedback in the moment. No, you have to let your students listen to them, walk around, take notes of some things, take notes of common mistakes, and maybe later on we'll just check them out. But this moment, the student must be free to produce, or to use the language on their own. Okay, so take notes of common mistakes, as I told you. Okay, so there you have to, and then the feedback is given after the activity, as I told you. No, so there we go. You listen to your students, they are using the language, just take notes, just don't care about the correctness, no, that by the end, and then you take notes of common mistakes and then you talk about them, okay? So production stage, okay, can be a mini task, a game, charades, Pictionary, guessing, a role play, okay? So, and that is the idea of, okay? So step 2, final activity. Pair or group work, okay? Pair or group work. So production stage could be an interview as well. A final activity, a pair group will work as well. Now, what we know. Okay, so let's wrap up. Bulletin. Okay, so practice production, presentation, practice and production. There we go. Topics must be interesting for your students. Otherwise, the moment of the production, your students going to be like tired. They're going to be like, oh no, I don't like it, and they want to participate. Now, monitor students and provide feedback. That is a practice stage. Okay, that is a practice stage. Don't forget, focus on targets, language, grammar, and vocabulary and context. That is a presentation. Okay, focus on language. all tasks must have a communicative goal. Yes. If there is not the idea of communicative and a communicative idea, that is not presentation, practice, production. Okay, so then you have that idea. And then we have the 3 stages. Okay, we have the 3 stages: presentation, practice, production. Presentation goes for context, practice goes for accuracy, and production goes to fluency. Okay, so those are the 3 stages of presentation, practice, and production. Okay, so then we have here, just to remember, presentation, context, practice, accuracy, production, fluency. So just remember, here, if you see the case study, they say the teacher is modeling, the teacher is presenting, or the teacher is introducing the grammar, automatically say, oh, that is a presentation stage. If the activity says, no, if the case study in the exam says like, okay, the students complete, or fill in the gaps with the missing word, or complete the statements, or match the statements, that is something that the student is doing, so that is practice. Okay, so, and then, of course, another thing that would be for practice, the teacher monitors and checks and focuses on accuracy, automatically say that is practice. Now there you go, like the student by his own, or the student by their own, the students by their own, they start working and using the language. Oh, that is production. Okay, so the activity is focused on fluency, and it goes in this order. It is not possible to put it production first or practice first and presentation by the end. No, it goes in this order. Okay, we cannot change, you cannot alter the order. Okay, so there we go, case study. Here we go. Let's gonna do it. Lillian is going to teach the topic daily routines using simple present tense. She will use the presentation practice production method, the PPP. This is the sequence she has planned, and we have the sequence. Now the question is, which of the PPP method stages is missing in Lillian's teaching sequence? Which stage is missing? Remember, presentation, practice, production. So those are the stages. Which is missing? Somebody?
Teacher Susana says B. Teacher Susana says B. Victoria says C.
Okay.
Carmen B. Ingrid Perez says practice stage, which means letter B. Monica Flores says B. Also Sonia. And Francisco. Francisco says presentation, letter A. Johannes Grover B. Also Jesus.
Okay.
Tosca says A.
Okay, very good. We have a variety of them. Okay, remember, presentation, the teacher introduces or models. Okay, so which sentence says that? Which sentence says the teacher models? So the teacher is using the grammar. That is this one. Next, the teacher describes the singer's daily routine using the new expressions in simple present tense. The teacher uses, not the student. The teacher uses. So the teacher is presenting the grammar. The teacher is presenting the vocabulary. So that is presentation stage. So presentation stage cannot be, because presentation stage is here. Now, then we have here, finally, the teacher calls on volunteers to read the daily routines. Yes, they call volunteers, so they are presenting the production stage. Now the students are going to present, so that is the production stage. Now, do we go here to just to recall on this? Says the teacher tells the students to write a short description of the daily routines following their example. It is not practice. This is part of the production. Practice, remember, should be filling the gaps, match the activity, true, false, I don't know. Those activities students can use the language in a paper or maybe orally, okay? But they have to, yes? So this is not, this is they are writing the description. They are producing something. They are writing a paragraph here. So maybe a daily life in my favorite routines could be like to match or to label pictures with daily routines, I don't know, to complete spaces in blank, or to match sentence halves. Okay, so that is part of practice. So in this activity, what is missing is the practice stage. Practice stage is not considered in this example. Is that clear?
Yes, teacher.
Okay, thank you. So,
Yes, teacher.
Martita, it's all yours.
It's okay.
Thank you. Okay, so my screen. Great. Now I am going to talk a bit more about collaborative learning. No, Teacher Jose, we're talking about cooperative learning. So, okay, let's go. Collaborative learning, in this method, students working independently are capable of learning deeply. Nevertheless, structuring learning so that the students are required to respond to one another's ideas, create a product together, and more to the point, teach each other. Please take on mind this. Students work together and teach each other. Can be an effective teaching strategy. So teachers, I think most of us use the collaborative learning strategy because we used to work students who are high level in English with some of them are in low level, so they work together. Collaborative or cooperative learning it could be both, but you see in this case, in occasion group is always in group, has stimulated significant literature. Examples of collaborative learning: thinking pair share, problem-based learning, guided design, case studies, simulations, when we use this in our classes, roles. No, when we put our students to make a dialogue, to prepare a presentation all together. Peer editing, jigsaw strategy. So in this picture, we can see that some of the collaborative learning parts involves that they have the efficacy, team works, so they collaborate, or collective responsibility and shared purpose. El grupo tiene objetivo común. Embracing innovation opportunities, the collaborative learning helps students to strengthen together. Like the word, ninguno se queda atrás. Helps the team function because we can use time and we can work with efficiency systems. Of course, it works with the values because it enables condition of social sensitivity. Some of the times our students that are high level of English used to work alone because sometimes they don't have patience with their classmates and they try to do at first and quickly their job. But this collaborative learning helps the students to practice values. They trust the giving and receiving, because because some of the times some students are good at drawing and others are good in doing speaking, or they like to read, so they help each other. They use the sense of making, they provide, no? And they use the openness, so they help each other. Again, all work in the best way together. It helps to be more conscious of the self-aware, the growth mindset. This is very important because when we work in groups, students help each other with their own values, their own, I can't say the word, bueno, con sus propias habilidades, okay, their own abilities. Of course, all focus on the learning goal. I want to share with you this short video. Okay, something wrong with my...
What is collaborative learning? Collaborative learning, an instructional method that emphasizes students working together in small groups to complete a task or reach a common goal. In some cases, students may be responsible for each other's learning. Benefits of collaborative learning. Collaborative learning develops high-level thinking skills, promotes student-faculty interaction and familiarity, increases student retention, builds self-esteem in students, enhances student satisfaction with the learning experience. Some more benefits of collaborative learning. Promotes a positive attitude toward the subject matter, develops oral communication skills, develops social interaction skills, promotes positive race relations, creates an environment of active, involved, exploratory learning. 20 collaborative learning tips and strategies for teachers. To make collaborative learning effective, teachers has to follow these strategies. 1. Establish group goals. 2. Keep groups mid-sized. 3. Establish flexible group norms. 4. Build trust and promote open communication. 5. For larger tasks, create group roles. 6. Create a pre-test and post-test. 7. Consider the learning process itself as part of assessment. 8. Consider using different strategies like the jigsaw technique. 9. Allow groups to reduce anxiety. 10. Establish group interactions. 11. Use a real-world problem. 12. Focus on enhancing problem solving and critical thinking skills. Few more strategies for teachers. 13. Keep in mind the diversity of groups. 14. Groups with an equal number of boys and girls are best. 15. Use scaffolding or diminished responsibility as students begin to understand concepts. 16. Include different types of learning scenarios. 17. Technology makes collaborative learning easier. 18. Keep in mind the critics. 19. Be wary of groupthink. 20. Value diversity. These 20 tips, strategies make collaborative learning effective. Can you memorize what is collaborative learning? It is an instructional method that emphasizes students working together in small groups to complete a task or reach a common goal. In some cases, students may be responsible for each other's learning. For inspiration, an educational system isn't worth a great deal if it teaches young people how to make a living, but doesn't teach them how to make a life. unknown other.
Okay, so in these 20 tips, we can have in mind what is collaborative learning. So I think this is one of the most methods that we are using. So we have so different classrooms and all of them have a different level. The collaborative learning help each other, as the author says, learning together. Okay, let's see this case. Dana's students have finished writing a letter. Now she wants them to revise their letters in a collaborative way. She has designed the following sequence. First, the teacher pairs up the students and asks them to exchange their letters. Then she tells them to circle all the grammar mistakes they find in the peer's letter. Next, the students return the letters to their owners. After that, the teacher asks the students to make improvements to their own letters by correcting the grammar mistakes found. Finally, teacher collects the letters. Considering teacher purpose of having students revise their letters in a collaborative way, which of the following criticism is appropriate? Okay, see the options and use the chat giving me your ideas. Which could be the best answer? A, the the students only circle their peers' mistakes. They should have also corrected those mistakes. B, the students focused on identifying grammar mistakes. They should have also identified mistakes related to the content. C, the students identify their peers' mistakes individually. They should have also talked to each other in order to give suggestions to improve their letters. Okay. Any idea?
Nobody so far. Come on, send the answers.
No worries.
Okay, says
You choose the wrong one.
They are writing now. Susana, Mendes, Magdalena as well. C. Everybody saying C. Grover as well. C.
Okay.
Richard Z. Julio Z. Yeah, this is C.
Okay. As you says, very good. The right answer is C. Please could you mute your microphone? Why? Because could you mute that phone?
Yeah, I'm trying to do it. Claudia, please, your mic.
Thank you, teacher. Oh.
Claudita, okay.
Okay, teachers, very good. So the letter is, the right answer is C. The students identify their peers' mistakes individually. They should have also talked to each other. Why it is important? Because they have to work together and learn together. They need to talk to the partner in order to help the partner learn in a better way, okay? So this is important, letter C. Okay, here we have some other links I will send you with the slides. And now, teacher Jose, please could you helping me, which is the next?
Content-based.
Okay, excellent. Okay, thanks. Okay, thank you. I have here my slides. Okay, in this case, we are going to analyze this case to start, and then we are going to try to reflect why it could be the content-based learning, okay? Renzo's students watched a video about the pollution of the main river in the city and got really interested in the topic. He wants to take advantage of that text, of that context, to help his students develop their reading skills. He has planned the following sequence. The teacher brings a 4-paragraph article about the pollution of the rivers. Each paragraph of the article makes reference to a specific aspect of the topic as follows. Paragraph 1, description of the problem. Paragraph 2, causes, 3 effects, 4 solutions. The teacher divides the class into 4 groups and gives a different paragraph of the article to each group. The teacher tells the students to read the paragraph they got and discuss what they understood about it. He tells them to write down the ideas they find the most important. After the students finish the discussion, the teacher picks up all the paragraphs they gave them and beginning of the sequence. He tells the students to stand up for more new groups. The new groups have to include 1 member of each group of the previous. Next, the students use their notes to share with their new group the information they gathered during the reading. Finally, the teacher asks the groups to write their own version of the full article using the information sharing by each of the members. So we are going to see what does content-based learning it's about. In recent years, content-based instruction has become increasingly popular as a means of develop linguistic ability. So please stay on mind this. It is more for develop linguistic ability. It has strong connections to project work task-based learning and a holistic approach to language instruction, and has become particularly popular between the state school in secondary. So it is more used in secondary. What is the content-based instruction? The focus on CBI lesson is on the topic or subject. During the lesson, the students are focused on learning about something. Okay, here says clearly, the students in the example, if you see here, what is they want, Renzo's want his students learn about pollution, problem, causes, effects, and solutions. So he used the pollution topic to help their students learn that, and of course, develop the linguistic ability. They learn about this subject using the language they are trying to learn, rather than their native language as a tool for developing knowledge. So they develop their linguistic ability in the target language. This is thought to be more natural way of developing language ability, and one that corresponds more to the way we originally learned our first language. In this case, Renzo wants, okay, take advantage of the context to help his students develop reading skills. He could maybe also do a writing skills or a speaking, develop the speaking skills. So he planned a topic which is from the interest of the students, or which it is important for the situation. What is the situation? The river in the city that has been polluted. Okay, so it could be the use of the topics about interested about the students. For example, sports, no? Also, now it's with the memes, we can use some of those topics to get the students involved in the develop of the class, of the sessions. And of course, they have to use the way that they could interact and develop their language. What does a content-based instruction lessons look like? Okay, so we need the preparation. Choose a subject of interest to students. Again, it could be interesting for the students, not for us. Sometimes we as teachers try to, for example, if I like music, I try to use music in my classes. It could be okay, but sometimes the music I use to listen is not interesting of my students. So it is important to have on mind that the interest of the students. Find 3 or 4 suitable sources that deal with different aspects of the subject. In the case study, Renzo divided the groups in 4, divided the class in 4 groups. So he used the description of the problem, causes, effects, and solutions. He could use websites, books, audios, videos, no? Readings. During the lesson, they have to divide the class in small groups and assign each group a small research task as a source of information. In this case, Renzo, here, divided the class in 4 groups, gives different paragraphs to each group, no? And he tells the students read the paragraph and discuss. They try to understand what is about the paragraph. And there should then be some products at the end of the session. So in the case here, teacher wants to the groups write their own version of the full article using the information shared by each of the members. In this case, he used a group activity, and which is the product? Their own version of the full article. He used the groups, and as says here, they need to end, or the activity or the task need to end in a product. So now, what do you think? It is clear what does content-based learning is about? In our classes, most of the times we can use these activities because we work as teachers, I think, in groups. No, I see that some of my colleagues used to work in groups and help each other. So as you see, these methods are going on in the way that the students help each other and help in the learning process, in the way they can share and they can give ideas or try to help the learning process by themselves, but also with their classmates. And here you see the teacher is just a facilitator. He is not doing all the activity. He just help the students to try to focus on the topic, which is of their interest, and he prepared, no, the paragraphs. It could be maybe about an artist or another topic, but also all the time we have to think in the interest of our students. Here in Aprendo en Casa, you see these activities this year are more related, no, to the interest of the students, trying to develop the critical thinking about the importance of healthy food, the importance of change our lifestyle, and trying to ask about how they manage the stress in the pandemic situation. So it is important to have in mind that the teacher is only a facilitator to make groups and help the students to get involved in their own learning and help each other as a group. Here is the link, Teacher Jose. There are some questions. Do you have any question? Please let me know, or we can continue. The time is...
No questions. Robert says, okay, it's perfect. Okay, so now we're going to continue with problem-based learning. That's it. Can you see my screen? Am I sharing or I'm not sharing?
Not yet.
No, can you? Can you see my screen?
Okay, good. Right now we are seeing your screen.
Okay, now that's great. Now, then we're going to work on problem-based learning. Those are the typical ones, okay? So the misunderstandings we got, and then the difficulties that come and say content-based, problem-based, task-based, project-based. Oh, what's the difference? Yeah, that is something that we need to be aware by doing by taking our exams. No, I mean, like if we do not see the difference accurately, so we are not going to go to the correct answer then. Okay, so problem-based learning. Okay, so when you say problem-based learning, then you say global issue. That's it. Yeah, so that is something that you have to get in. Okay, so problem-based means a global issue. Okay, it's a global issue. It's not an issue in the classroom. It's not an issue at school. It's not an issue in the community. It's a global issue. Okay, so something that you need to be aware. Okay, so and that is the idea of problem-based. Now, the focus of problem-based is to develop problem-solving skills. Okay, so it is focused on the procedure, how they solve the problem or the proposal of the problem, rather than the product indeed, okay, rather than the product. So there we have, let's continue. How does it work? Okay, how does it work? First, think of an interesting global issue your students might want to learn about. For example, water pollution. That is a typical one that comes on pollution, everything's a pollution. Okay, so second, find out what your students know about the global issue. So prior knowledge, activate schemata. Okay, now third, elicit ideas from your students on how to solve the problem and share. As they know what the problem is, they have to propose some solution. Personal ideas, of course, yes, individually work. Okay, so then they start elicit ideas from your students. 4, let your students look for facts and evidence that can support the ideas for solutions. So they have here personal ideas. Yes, they have the personal ideas. Now, next, they have to go to the internet and so search some information that can support that the idea is correct or not. The proposal of solution is correct or not. So then they have to look for support. It's not only to say, but to generate some facts, okay, to get some facts that supported that idea. 5th, help your students connect the ideas with evidence before presentation. Okay, so as they are gonna, this is like exactly the same. So your students look for support, and then you have to help them to connect, to monitor your students. You help your students organize their ideas before presentation. 6, tell students to present their solutions by doing an individual or group activity presentation. Now, could be both, okay, could be both. The proposal could be individual or could be like group activity, the presentation. Okay, so here, remember that you have to focus on the procedure, how that proposal works. That's why here you're helping your students to connect those ideas. You're telling your students to go to the internet and search for evidence that can support the ideas of solution. Okay, so it is not just to say, okay, this is the solution. No, okay, what is the evidence? Yes, what's the evidence? What is the support for your solution? Yes, and then they're gonna present it. Okay, so the bulletin. Yes, the bulletin. Just remember it, okay? This is really important. Problem-based learning is based on the study of a global issue. Okay, so if it's a global issue, automatically say, okay, that is problem-based. Students need to support their ideas with facts and real evidence. Okay, so if there is no real evidence for their proposal, that is not correct. Okay, they have to. Yes, they have to support the idea. It's not only says, okay, I think a proposal for water pollution is this. It's not only to say that, but to support. Okay, so group or individual work can be said. Okay, so you can do it individually or you can do it in groups, no problem. As I told you, the main goal is to propose a creative but real solution for a specific global solution. Okay, so a global issue. Okay, the main, it's a proposal. It's not the product indeed, it's a proposal. Okay, and there we go. Real, it must be creative, that well, a real one. Okay, a real one that might work. Now, feedback is necessary to help students organize ideas and verify sources of information. So meanwhile, your students are getting their support, then you have to go there and help them and tell them how to connect the idea to that support. And then you have to test as well the source of information, if it's correct or not, okay? So that is something that you have to do as a teacher. Now, then we have the case study. Before we go it, I want you to check out this, okay? These are answers. Based on the sequence above, which of the following teaching methods is involved in Carmen's sequence to develop writing? Task-based, problem-based, or presentation practice production? Okay, so there we go, task-based, problem-based, or PPP. Now read the case and let's gonna discuss on the answer. What is the answer? Martita, please.
No answers yet.
No answers yet.
No. Teachers are reading carefully. Okay, while the teacher answers, I want to say that we have to wait. We don't have the link to register your assistant, so please, we have to wait. I think at the end of the presentation. Okay, Sonia says A, problem-based learning, says Susana, and Katia says B. Okay. Magdalena, problem-based learning, Dosca B, Wilfred, and Monica. Monica says C. Francisco, B. Also Griselda, problem-based learning. Maribel says A, Jenny says B, and Flor says C.
Okay, very good. So what is the correct answer here? Now, then we got this task-based, problem-based, and presentation practice production. Okay, so if we see here, says the teacher writes, pollution is destroying our planet. Now, just remember, pollution is a global issue. Yes or no? Then you have to say that. Is that a global? It's a global issue? Pollution. Yes, it is.
Yes, teacher.
Yes, it is. If you see that it's a global issue, then say automatically they say, okay, no, that is problem-based learning. Of course, okay, so no, teacher, maybe there is some kind of misunderstanding. Okay, they are trying to confuse our minds. Okay, now then we have this. How could we solve this issue? Okay, how can we solve? Remember, problem-based focuses on finding a solution to a global issue. So the idea is to solve this issue. So that is the answer then, letter B, problem-based learning. It was not necessary to get the whole task. It was not necessary. It is not, it's just to get the keywords and then you wonder, okay, that is problem-based learning. Okay, so hope you got it. That is still got questions maybe. So questions, no questions, questions?
Teacher Jose, I have one question.
Yes.
What is illicit? Can you give me one example about?
Yes, for example, right now I'm eliciting questions from you. I'm asking for questions, I would go. So making my students to make questions. I'm making you to make questions, to elicit questions. Is that okay? It's like to provoke.
Yet, teacher.
Okay, so and then we go to the last PPT of the day. And then we go to
while you are presenting, Jose, it is important what you said. We have to have in mind that there are keywords in our exam. So most of the times they used to confuse us with their whole reading situation. And we also could lose time trying to identify. So keywords are a good strategy when you are trying to solve an exam.
yes, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Now let's go to the last presentation of the day. And then we have project-based learning. Now, project-based learning, it's similar to task-based learning, and it's similar to content-based learning, and it's similar to problem-based learning. But then we have focus and different things. Okay, so what is it about? First, we're gonna go directly to it. Come up with an idea students may like. Okay, planning a camping trip. Talk, it's not only the remember PBL, project-based learning, it's interdisciplinary. So it means that it's not only about English, but you can call the biology teacher, you can call the mathematics teacher, you can call the communication teacher, you can call another teacher, the EPT or the EP teacher to help you working on this project. Meanwhile, you have your students do, I don't know, I would say learning the language, yes, English, and then another person using the same project will help use mathematics, maybe will help making the budget for that camping trip, okay? So that is the idea, okay? That is the idea of project-based learning. It is not just one single area. It is interdisciplinary activity, yes? So there we go. For example, it's a camping trip. Then you call the biology teacher. Okay, I'm gonna do this camping trip project. So please, I want you to help me. And then, okay, so the biology teacher will say, okay, the science teacher will say, okay, so now students, you're gonna go and then you check out the flora, the fauna, the place you're gonna go in the camping. And then we have project-based learning. It is not to have all areas of study, 2 of them, that is perfect, okay? It is not to have all of the areas, but 2 of them is perfect. Now, did you see the difference? Now that you're looking at the difference. Second, elicit from the students, get from the students the elements of a camping trip. That is a procedure now, okay? So there we go. When, tents, food, campers, campsite, etc. Then you have here a total range of ideas, the brainstorming, okay, of what to do in the camping trip or how to organize a camping trip. Third, present a driving question. Then we have, how can I plan a 4-day camping trip that my camper list will agree to attend? Okay, and then we have the project because they are organizing a camping trip. They are not going to a camping trip, they are organizing a camping trip, okay? So that's a different thing. Yes, now then we have, what is it about? Fourth, yes, in-depth inquiry, then we have campsite options, tent site activities, and now then we have here the interdisciplinary activity, okay? And feedback from friends and experts. Now, that is another thing that you need to relate on project-based. Project-based that you have, then you need to have an expert opinion. As it's an interdisciplinary activity, it is not only you, but then you have to contact experts or the other teachers or the other people who are helping you work on this project activity, in this activity. So there we go, the expert will be the teachers, expert could be maybe parents, also some people who are like, they really like go camping or they have camped before, okay? So that is the idea, those are the experts. And then we have 6, invite your audience, 7th, hands-on action, and 8th, evaluate. Okay, and then we have the bulletin here. So the idea of it, okay, so that we have idea of project-based, remember, it goes like an interdisciplinary activity. It's not only just your area, but it will go beyond it. Yes, it will go beyond it. No, and that is the process that you have to follow the process. Brainstorm ideas, and then you have to make a driving question, like a kind of research question. Okay, so it's kind of research, a mini research question that you say, how can I plan 4-day camping trip that campers will agree to attend? Remember, this idea is to organize a camping trip, planning a camping trip. Okay, so then we have the depth inquiry, that is the work with other subjects of a study, with other areas of a study, and the fit, it's that to give the feedback, not only from you, but from experts, okay, from experts. So then you have feedback, is not just the teacher, it's everybody's that it's involved in this project or in this activity. Yes, so then we have the following, okay, so that's invite your audience, hands-on action, and evaluate. Now that we have the bulletin here, okay, just to remember, okay, project-based, interdisciplinary learning. It is a long term, so results can be seen by the end of the term of the year. It developed 21st century competencies, problem solving, critical thinking, collaboration, communication, and creativity, innovation. The main goal is the creation of the final product or artifact. An expert's opinion is an important way to confirm research. Okay, so if you see here, the main goal is the creation of a final product. In problem-based, the main goal was the proposal of solution, how you get to the solution. But here is now how you work on it. The idea is to get, to do it, okay, to do it. Yes, now, meanwhile, in problem-based, that you are the one who gives the monitor to monitor the students. Here, the expert's opinion is an important thing. It's not only you, but also all the teachers that are working with you. Now, it's a long-term activity, okay? And it's the difference with problem-based, it's interdisciplinary learning, okay? It's not only one single area, but it is different ones. Now, there we go, the difference between them. Task-based is a short-term activity usually carried out in the classroom, inside the classroom. That is task-based. No, it's usually done in one single area. Well, so it is done. It is not usually done. It's done in one single area. Now, for example, listen to the audio and list the adjectives you hear. That is task-based. This activity is task-based. Listen to the audio and list the adjectives you hear. That is task-based. Now, problem-based. It's a long-term activity. A difference from task-based, problem-based and project-based, both are long-term activities. Yeah, problem-based focuses on a global issue. The aim is to find a proposal of a solution. Okay, so then you find a proposal of a solution, and that is a global issue. Example, write a proposal to reduce river contamination. Okay, so water contamination. Now, project-based. It's a learned term, but interdisciplinary activity. It's not just your area, it's interdisciplinary. The topic focuses on daily life problems in the classroom, at the school, and the community. Okay, so that is the aim, the goal indeed is to create a product. So for example, let's create our school view garden. That is project-based. You are not going to work on it itself because everybody at school is going to work on the view garden. Yes, okay, so then we see the difference between them. Task-based, problem-based, and project-based. We see the difference. So let's go doing this activity. So Danny has developed the following sequence to help his students improve their listening skills. Now that you have read it, which teaching method to listening is used by the teacher? Which one is used? Please, I want you to read it and check the difference. The activity says to listening, it's to listening.
Okay. Luz Marina, Susana says letter A. Also Victoria, Jesus, and Katia, Monica, no doubts. All are saying letter A. Also Magdalena and Oscar, A. Great.
Everybody says A. Very good, very good. Now, if you see, the whole activity is project-based, the whole activity. This is project-based activity. Yes, the whole activity, the whole thing is project-based. But here says which teaching method to listening, not to get everything, just to listening is used by the teacher. So you have to read carefully the question as well. That you see, you read it, you skim the case study, and then you say, oh no, this is project-based. And then you go and then you check project-based. But it is not the correct answer. The answer is task-based. Why? Because the question says to listening. Which activity, which teaching method to listening is used by the teacher? I think we have here, no? So the teacher tells the student to listen to an announcement of lost objects in the schools. They have to focus on the characteristics of the lost objects and place where they were found. Okay, so they have to scan the audio. Okay, we're going to do it tomorrow. They're going to scan the audio and take notes of the characteristics and the places. That's it. And that is the listening. And that is, what is that? That is task-based, okay? Listen to an audio and list the adjectives you hear. That is task-based. So the correct answer is letter A. Is that clear? Any question? Questions? No questions?
No questions, or teacher are sleeping? No. Thank you, Richard. Ruiz says it's clear.
Okay. Martita, I sent it to the WhatsApp, the link. Would you
Okay.
mind sharing it in the group?
Okay.
Here in the chat here.
Okay. Okay, I am sending the link to complete your assistance. Teachers do it right now.
Attendance list.
Remember that you can participate. It doesn't matter if you haven't been since the first times. We are not going to get the certificate, but we are going to learn a bit more and share some theory and just also study cases.
Already said it.
Okay, that's all.
I just shared the link for the attendance in the chat.
And there was a teacher, sorry, that was asking for the possibility to share the presentations.
Yes, we in the WhatsApp group, we have a Google Drive link. Then you're gonna find all the PPTs.
Thanks, Teacher Jose.
Please don't forget, no se olviden poner su asistencia, por favor. Sí, tienen acceso a la asistencia, ¿no? Confirme, por favor. Yes, okay, super.
Creo que recuerdas que le quería hacer a mi hermana y no contaba.
Okay. Muy bien, colegas, espero que la presentación del día de hoy haya sido útil para ustedes el día de hoy. Grace, va a haber un link donde van a estar todas las PPTs puestos para que ustedes puedan ir y sacarlo, ¿no? El día de mañana vamos a trabajar en los que son los receptive skills, lo que es listening y reading. Okay? So, come prepared to those difficult ones. Okay? Eso sería todo. Muchísimas gracias por su asistencia.
Thank you, teacher.
Martita, si tienes algo que decir.
No, agradecerles por la asistencia. Si pueden compartir de pronto con algunos colegas que tal vez no hayan podido inscribirse al curso, pero que estén interesados, igual, bienvenidos. Y
Sí.
muchísimas gracias por la atención y por la oportunidad de compartir con ustedes un poco más. Thank you. Anytime. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Jose and Miss Marta. Thank you.
You're
A ti,
welcome.
Eleazar.
Con gusto.
Bye bye. See you tomorrow.
Bye, Katia.
Bye bye.
Thank
you, Teacher Jose and Miss Marta. See you tomorrow.
Miss Marta.
Bye.
See you tomorrow. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, teacher Jose.
Goodbye.
Bye. Goodbye. Bye. Thank you so much.
Goodbye, Teacher